I think it's been a really good day. I think there's a lot of good seminars, right? Yeah. So I'm sorry we got to end on this one. So no, everybody's been super great. I got to tell you, the sheriff was awesome. The Gabe was super interesting. Everybody did a really great job. And I think you guys are going to be super interested in this. I particularly, it's something that is very interesting to me. And that is, what is it like to be an elected official in San Diego on the local level, where the rubber meets the road, and be unapologetically pro-Second Amendment. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let me introduce you to everybody. Dustin Trotter is a city council member for the city of Santee. Dustin was the second check written to San Diego County Gun Owners. When I said, hey, I think I want to start an organization, and Dustin said, say no more, and stroke the check. And I am forever grateful for that. And he's just been an absolute powerhouse when it comes to Second Amendment and supporting San Diego County Gun Owners. In fact, Dustin, just to show that we are truly making a difference, Dustin won by 4 votes. 5 votes. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Dustin won by 5 votes. And during an election, when all the Democrats were yelling about the election and a recount, and demanding a recount, and how un-American that was, the Democrats here in San Diego demanded a recount in Dustin's race. And I was one of like a dozen people that went down to volunteer to help, and sat there and watched the recount to make sure everybody was on the up and up, because Dustin has been, first off, has been such a good guy for Santee, but he's been such a good guy for San Diego County Gun Owners. So I proudly stood there and helped the recount, and he won by 5 votes. 5 votes. So. Wow. Phil Ortiz, city council member for the city of El Cajon. Equally as impressive and just as passionate about the Second Amendment. Phil is a fantastic guy and supporter of San Diego County Gun Owners. Endorsed him, again, unapologetic about his Second Amendment views. And thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Mike.
And then Laura Lothian, you guys all know Laura. She's the Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor of La Mesa.
For La Mesa. Yeah. Laura got into politics after being extremely active in La Mesa goings on for years, and ended up running in a special election. We endorsed her. We did everything we could to get her elected, and lo and behold, boom. She not only got elected, got reelected, and her election has paid dividends, let's say. She's done a number of things to block some bad regulations that have come along the way, and again, unapologetic about being vocal about the Second Amendment. So thank you all so much for coming.
Thanks, Mike.
So I'm gonna pass the mic down to Dustin. Let's start with Dustin, work this way, and just give us a couple of general thoughts on what's it like being an elected official in San Diego County and being pro Second Amendment.
So I represent the city of Santee, so it's a little bit easier out in East County than me and the whole entire county of San Diego itself. Our council's a 5-0 Republican council, and so it makes it pretty easy to see that ideology, we align a lot alike, a lot of things get done, but talking about the Second Amendment side, I go back to try to explain to people some things. When we get elected, we're obligated to take an oath to the Constitution of the United States and to the Constitution of California, okay? So the Constitution of the United States, obviously the Second Amendment, what we're here to talk about today a little bit, gives us that right to bear arms, right? But it also, this Constitution of California doesn't give us the right to break the law. So there's a fundamental thing that we go through as conservatives, even sitting on the council, is that I bang my head against the wall all the time when I have to go through the process of dealing with things that are being state mandates coming down from the state of California. We can stand up there and grandstand all day. We can be fighters for our convictions, but we also still have to follow law. So there's a thin line, that we have to follow, but I have never once bowed down to anybody about the Second Amendment, because that is an unapologetic thing, that right is given to us to bear arms no matter what. And California itself, not just San Diego still sits as a you know, much more conservative areas, especially obviously in East County and North County, you know, primarily. Mike has fought, you know, Mike, remember the first dinner that we attended down at the Hall of Champions, that when you were still working with the California?
Gun Owners California.
Yeah, in Gun Owners California. I've never missed a dinner, you know, since that dinner. That was the very first, you know, dinner that we went to, and started, like I say, when he started this organization, I wrote a check when we were sitting at the bar over in BNS, actually, I remember it very vividly, and he told me, hey, I'm getting ready to quit my job and you know, jump ship and go do this, and I said, here you go, buddy, you know, write the check, and like Mike said, my member number is 002, and I'm very proud of that, you know, personally. I mean, I don't know how many members you got today, I have no idea. Yeah,
like 3,600. But
I know that, you know, like I said, you can't take my number away from me as long as I keep writing.
Yeah.
So a little story, a little history there, so hopefully it kind of gives you a little background.
Same question, Phil. What's it like being an elected official, pro Second Amendment elected official?
Oh, it's easy being a conservative elected official in California.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like everyone in this room and who's listening knows, it's a constant battle. And a little bit about my history. So I was at Santana during the school shooting in 2001. March 5th, 2001 at 9:37. That was my first interaction with a firearm. Wow. Was when Andy Williams started shooting my classmates. And so thankfully I had a girlfriend in college whose father was a avid gun owner, and he brought me to the gun range and he showed me this is a tool and you can use it responsibly or irresponsibly. And from that point forward, I kind of was okay with guns, and then I bought my first gun shortly thereafter. But fighting for these rights is, you know, very difficult. As conservatives, we always go with the facts and the data, and we say, you know, concealed carry weapons holders or commit less crimes than police officers. You know, there's no real reason why we shouldn't have guns or why you're trying to take away our guns. And so lately, when I talk to people on the other side to try and change their mind and give an argument they haven't heard, is the emotional argument. The left always goes with the emotional argument, so I try and go to it and say, why are you trying to take away my ability to protect my daughter and my son? You know, I'm not going to commit any crimes. And the state is actively aiding and abetting criminals at this point with the way our justice system is in California. Or I'll ask them, when was the last time you were a victim of a crime? You know, you'd be singing a different story if you were constantly being victimized and you had no way to protect yourself. And just a second for them to pause and think about that is, you know, what I found is the best way. As Justin said, we can grandstand, we can talk. That's the best way I know how to continue fighting, whether it's supporting gun owners or making myself available to be a plaintiff for SB2 or whatever it is. You have to engage yourself and involve yourself in a way, and it's difficult. You're getting bombarded from every angle constantly, but that's what a fight is. You're gonna get punched in the mouth, and you got to keep moving forward. So, yeah. Laura,
same question.
Okay, and I have my own mic, right? Okay.
Hold on.
Well, my big takeaway from that is you were a high school kid with a college girlfriend?
Yeah. That was my next question. I'm like, wait a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's talk about
All right.
that.
Yeah. You've always had game. Okay, so I, unfortunately, am west of these two cities. So my town, La Mesa, which was conservative for 109 years, has become as liberal as San Francisco. It is always me against four. Always, always, always. We did have a Second Amendment, a gun storage agenda item, and luckily you guys came out in force, but the opponents to that were classic emotional conversations, you know, a 4-year-old and the cry, and it's like, and that's it. Let's like make laws based on girls crying. So it's very, very difficult. But here's what I believe. I think that there's nothing worse than being wishy-washy. And so if you believe in something, own it. And I strongly believe in the Second Amendment for so many reasons. One of my first experiences going with, like, you had a school shooting, for a short period I lived in Beverly Hills. And there was a Jewish school, a private Jewish school in Beverly Hills, and I was an armed guard. Because I remember seeing an armed guard in a neighborhood. And I'm not talking a mall cop. I'm talking, the guy looked like a Green Beret. And he was in front of the school, and I'm, what is this? And it's like, well, it's a Jewish private school, and I'm armed security. And I'm like, no one's gonna mess with that school. So all these kids, like your school and all these horrible stories, you have the anti-Second Amendment people thinking that the solution is taking guns off the streets. Well, there's almost 400 million guns in America. How are you going to do that? And we're never going to turn into an Australia, I hope. So I believe in having armed guards at schools. I mean, that's what we should do to protect the kids. And so I myself don't own a gun. I want to. I'm going to buy a gun. It's going to be pink. And I want it to have Swarovski crystals on it, and I want to have a really adorable gun, and I want to do gun training with your girl group that does it, and I will do it when the time allows. But I am in a household where my significant other has a gun in every room. We had a man high on something try to break into our house 2 weeks ago. The cops were there in 2 minutes, but he was screaming to the sky, homeless guy, comes up my stairs. On the top of my stairs is a glass French door. All I gotta do is do this, and you're inside. I wasn't worried because Simon, who's filming me right now, is armed. So I'm such a strong believer in the Second Amendment, and no amount of crying or trying to make me, step back on my words will, no, not a chance. Not after what I've seen what's happened in the world that's unarmed.
Nice, good for you. When you were in office or as a candidate, has anyone, Phil, tried to use your past against you? In other words, you were in this school shooting, you were part of the school shooting. Has anyone tried to use that against you, and what's that story?
Well, it seems like I'm in the minority when it comes to shooting survivor supporting guns. The youth, the vast majority of youth are against guns because they had this traumatic experience. And so the vitriol, whether it's mostly online that I get it when I engage with people, is astounding that, you should have died, back then, and your perspective is, killing more kids. I mean, blood is on your hands, this and that. Wow. But I'm not listening to the loud minority. I think I know there's some people that I have stopped and let them, they have stopped and thought about, wow, this person is actually giving the reality of what's going to happen if these gun laws come to fruition, which they're trying to do, which is, SB 2, get rid of make concealed carry illegal in the entire state. So yeah, the vitriol is real, but they're all acting out of emotion, and that's the last thing, like Laura said so eloquently, making laws from girls crying.
Yeah.
It's not a great way to govern a society. You have to be sober-minded about it, and the majority of the time when you create laws like this, like gun laws that restrict gun ownership, they're not methodical. You're not thinking about the unintended consequences of that law. You're not considering the victims that are going to be created.
So the next question for all of you is, when you get into office, what's your experience with being contacted, influenced, bombarded, called, emailed, whatever, by anti-gun groups once you get into office? Like, how much do they reach out to you, or what does that look like, Dustin?
I personally haven't had much bombardment, to be honest with you. I don't know if that is, like I said, because of the area that we're in. I've gone and helped a couple of friends. Our friend Jim Miller, I sat in on a school board meeting one time with him when the I forget the red orange shirt people.
The anti-gun.
Yeah,
Anti-gun shirt people.
Yeah, I forgot.
The red shirts.
I sat in a school board meeting with him one time on support. You and I have gone to the Del Mar Fairgrounds, and did some stuff there, showing support. But I haven't really had much bombardment. I mean, I haven't had much people attacking me over my personal stance and
constituents. Everybody ever? You ever a story about anybody contacting you and saying, "Hey, we gotta do whatever they want to do," or any kind of?
One didn't come to my head right off the tops, because, like I said, it's very minimal. I mean, the majority of my constituents, have a very similar ideology, so it makes it a little easier for me on that front.
Very good.
So.
Phil, what about you? What's your experience with anti-gun groups contacting you after you reach public office?
Not really organized groups, but it's mainly random constituents. And to be honest, I don't even think the majority of the people that are against the policies that I support are from East County. They're bussed in, they're shipped in, they're loud, they're obnoxious. It could be about guns, it could be about police, it could be about anything. And they're shipped in, they're activists. And the majority of the time, it seems like the citizens, support the majority of what we do, if not all of it. But you'll get some pretty hateful emails here and there, and everyone always akins. I don't know if anyone in the crowd has seen Parks and Rec, but the crazy public comments that we get, just grasping for things on the TV show. It mirrors real life. You'll get just crazy people talking about crazy things that have no sense whatsoever. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. There are municipalities I don't even really mess with. Like why go talk to Del Mar? So I'm guessing that there are probably the anti-gun groups are probably like we're not going to Santee. Why would we go to Santee? Or whatever. El Cajon probably has that. Although El Cajon's demographics I think are changing much like La Mesa's are
exactly right.
to an extent, but I think Santee is still definitely looked at as a foothold. So what's been your experience with the anti-gun groups?
No, nothing with the anti-gun groups because they think we're already in the bag for them. So the best night I've had being on the city council for 2 years was the night you showed up. When you and your group showed up.
What a nice thing to say.
Yeah, Michael, you guys, we had the Second Amendment, the gun storage on our agenda. Michael whipped up the pro-Second Amendment people. It was every chair in the city council chambers was full. It was standing room only outside. You guys came in with statistics. You were methodical. There was some passion. There was a gentleman that spoke, I think his last name, Manny Aceves, and he was talking about he came from a country where, it was Mexico, where the cartel could come and just kill you at will, and there's no way to defend yourself. And so he loved the freedom of America. He loves the right to bear arms. He loves the concealed carry. But what happened is by the time Michael Schwartz and you guys were done talking, I'm on the dais, and I saw the guys that wrote the agenda item shaking. Because they're so used to every time they put up some crazy San Francisco United Nations World Economic Forum crap on the agenda that they get nothing but flowers thrown at them. It's just accolades. And all of a sudden it's like, what? A hostile audience? And they, like I said, they backpedaled so hard that it feels dead.
Yeah.
Now, it's not to say that they're not going to raise it again, but it's been gone.
It's even that night it even changed.
Oh no, they changed. Yeah.
Like, no, this isn't what we meant.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. Because what it sounded like was if you a responsible person, because what it is this. You can't have a gun in your home if there's a felon in your property or a child. That's already the law. So this was taking it one step farther. No kids in the house, no felons in the house, and you can't have one. And so they, by the time, again, your group stopped talking or finished making your points, they were backpedaling. Oh, no, it's good. Defend yourself, it's okay. And they're like shaking, and I'm like, yes. And so it was over. And I think it died. It's the second time they've tried that. Yeah. And 2 times we've killed it.
Yeah, and that's one person.
Yeah.
That's one person.
Yeah.
When you ever think to yourself, gee, what are we going to do with one person on a council? Why would we vote for, why do we care about a local, whatever? We can move mountains. We can absolutely move mountains if we're organized enough. The thing we have on our side is that we're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
So as long as we execute on that, I think we know. Dustin, what could for everybody? What should we be doing better? Phil, you talked about messaging, and I want to talk to you about that a little bit because I think that's an enormously strong point. We actually talked about it at the monthly meetings this time around. But Dustin, what do you think we could be doing better?
Well, messaging is always important. Actually, it's important in a lot of different topics. But what's on my mind today? I'm going to tell you straight up is Israel. That's on my mind today. I've sat and watched a lot of stuff the last 2 weeks, what's going on over there in the Middle East. And, I don't get how much you guys know about their gun rights in Israel is most of the people don't own guns in Israel. It's a very small percentage that own guns, and I don't know the number off the top of my head right now. They have a very strenuous process in how to obtain a gun as a citizen in Israel. I watched it today, talking about all the things they have to do. Apply, then they have to go and get an interview from the police department, and they have to do this and that. There's like a 8-step process in here, and you know, I think about it, I mean, you know, why we have the Second Amendment, why our forefathers were so wise to put that into the Constitution, is for the reason exactly what Israel's going through today. And you know, this terrorist attack that they had on their people, ungodly things that were done to these people. But the majority of these people didn't have a way to defend themselves and protect themselves because they didn't have a firearm. Pick up a damn knife or rock or whatever else you got to do at that point, I guess. But you know, not having those things, and you alluded to Australia earlier, Laura, and there's certain countries that if this country ever go, I might as well just leave this country too, and I don't ever want to leave this country ever again. To be honest with you, I'm fearful of leaving this country at this point with all the crap that's going on out there. It hurts my heart to see some of the stuff that's happening, but it makes me proud that we have this right, to have this built into our Constitution, because there's not a chance in Hades that I wouldn't have done everything that I can do if someone walked into my house or into my family and wanted to do the things that I've seen in the last 2 weeks over in the Middle East. I don't know. That's a little tandem on that. It's been heavy on my heart for a couple weeks now.
So Phil, messaging, from the beginning, Santee County Gun Owners has based our messaging, press releases, public messages on caring and fairness. We care about people. We care about single moms trying to be able to defend themselves. It's not fair that we can't defend ourselves, but police officers can. Caring and fairness. Almost never do I talk about the sanctity of the Constitution or the authority of because that doesn't resonate with the people whose minds I'm trying to change, or the people who are on the fence and they're kind of. You nailed it. It's that emotional part that's really important. You got to know the statistics. You got to know what's going on too. Yeah. But getting to those heartstrings. So what influenced you to do that, and how do you do it better when you're talking to people?
That's a good question. And you have to constantly refine your art, and you have to constantly refine your message. That worked. That word or that phrase that worked. I'm gonna store that away. One thing I did when I worked at an office, I looked for people who were curious, and about firearms, who had questions about it, and then I'd take them on a shooting day. And so we can all be evangelists about guns. And I think sometimes, because we're gun owners in California, there's this stigma of kind of like, ooh, do I mention it? Do I not mention it? There's an uneasiness. And I've taken the perspective of, you treat it like I own a car. It's like, oh yeah, I have a gun. Yeah, like it's normal. And so then they're not put off, and they get a sense of confidence, and there's some already an expectation of normalcy. Like, this is a normal thing. This isn't anything unique. There's millions of guns. And that kind of took the stigma and shock value away from those people that I worked in the office with. And then once I found those curious people and I took them out, and you just let them shoot something small, nothing big, for an hour, and you bring other people who have never shot, so they have the buddy system, and it was fantastic. And now the stigma was gone, and we're still friends, and I don't think they own any guns, but they're definitely not militant about it anymore. But try and putting yourself in their shoes, and doing what my college girlfriend, when I was in college, her dad did for me.
Now, she was a doctorate and he was a freshman.
My wife shouldn't listen to
this.
Yeah. Doing what he did for me, and just kind of come alongside someone and talk plainly about it.
Yeah. Laura, with messaging, you're always, kind of shy and reserved. So you're very direct.
Okay.
You're very direct and no nonsense. But so what advice, or what are your thoughts on messaging in general, particularly when it comes to, folks on I don't want to say our side of the aisle, because we have folks across the political spectrum, but especially when it comes to gun owners and messaging, What are your thoughts?
I have very distinct thoughts on this. First of all, I'm very visual. I think everybody is. So we're like, I sell real estate. If I spend 100 words describing a swimming pool, it's not anywhere near as effective as showing you a picture of the swimming pool. So there was a movie out by Quentin Tarantino called *Inglourious Bastards, and he basically rewrote Hitler and World War II and all this other stuff, and it was like a reimagined different ending or whatever. There are so many famous, I hate to say it, massacres in this country, like the Colorado movie theater, for example. So we all know what happened. Some guy came in dressed and deranged and killed a bunch of innocent people that were just watching a movie. One person with a gun in that theater standing up and taking him out before he killed all those people would be a rewrite of that ending. I would love to see a short, a little film, a movie, something that changed the ending of the Colorado shooting, theater shooting, because I think people get so distraught at mass killings, and if you have one person kill the mass killer, it would make the gun the good guy. So I think that would be really interesting. Also, too, I've seen pictures from the 1950s of pickup trucks in high school parking lots with guns, right? There wasn't school shootings back then. And so to me, they should show the more restrictive the gun laws get, the more chaos and murders we're having. And so I think it'd be really cool to have a campaign that showed this is what guns were like in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And people, like I said, high school kids had them in their pickup truck and nobody batted an eye. And now if you showed up at a high school with a water pistol, you're expelled and you can't go to college, I mean, whatever it is. So I'm visual, and I think that some sort of a visual campaign to show how awesome guns are would be really good. And then you and I just had a conversation before this panel of having a gun fashion show at the next gun prom, where males and females strutting the catwalk and all of a sudden opening up the blazer, pulling them out of their hot pants, showing them in their bra or whatever, and there's your guns, and it would make guns kind of cool and fun to have. So I think you need to make guns desirable.
Clap if you think we should have a fashion show. So you guys are all Republican, and I would say you guys are. I think the three of you are you're not kind of Republican. You guys are Republican. You're proud to be Republicans. You're not. There are certain Republicans out there that are like, well, I'm Republican, but
yeah, Mitt Romney.
You guys are proud. You guys are. Dustin, you're very involved with the party.
Yeah.
You guys are proud to be Republicans. And I think that's great. What are your thoughts on how hard we try? And I think succeed at being nonpartisan, and do you guys, and a follow-up second part of that is, has there been resistance to the amount of partnership you have with us because we're nonpartisan?
So Mike's right. I mean, Santa Clara Gun Owners is a nonpartisan organization. That's one of the things I've extremely respected with Mike when he first started and throughout this endeavor, I guess over the last 8 years now?
8 years,
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Because the Second Amendment itself is not a partisan issue. We have people on both sides of the aisle that obviously believe in gun ownership. I mean, it is. We talk to people all the time. It's there. It's not a partisanship issue. Conservative or liberal, however you put it to a party or to what your personal beliefs are. I got a lot of friends that I've gone shooting with that are liberal. You can have a conversation. It's like going to the family, right? So you go to the dinner table at Thanksgiving, and you don't want to talk politics, right? It's usually you're getting into some kind of road that you don't want to go down in there. But majority of the people that at least I deal with personally are on the same level. I talked about earlier, if I had a lot of hate mail or people coming at me, and I don't. The majority of the people that I deal with, not just Republican, but Democrats too, the majority of them respect my position, and maybe I do better messaging than I even think. I don't know. Maybe I carry myself better than I do, but
I think there's a sincerity that comes across.
Yeah, and you, like I said, you in this organization has done an amazing job at keeping it nonpartisan and being what we talked about before, Mike, is it being a one issue organization.
Yeah.
And that's where really what it comes down to. We're not talking about politics here. We're not talking about being Republican or Democrat or conservative or liberal. This is a one issue organization. And that always has to stay in the forefront, not just the back of the minds of you and everybody who leads this organization. This is all it's about. It's not about anything else. It's not about, like you said, your politics. It's not about what you ate for dinner last night. It's about your right to bear your arms.
There you go.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that you've kept the door open for everybody, and now you haven't shut and locked the door and said this is only for conservatives or Republicans, because the largest voting bloc is independent now, is the independent bloc, and so if you just automatically close the door to the Democrat, the left, the middle, the side, then you're limiting your ability to talk to these people and expose them and bring them in and say, guns aren't scary, guns are good, they benefit our society in more ways than you think. I had a political opponent in El Cajon, and he was a self-proclaimed democratic socialist, and but he supported the Second Amendment. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, I know him well.
James.
Yeah, I know him well.
James Aaliyah.
Of course.
And James sat at my table at one of the dinners.
Yeah.
And he was full-on democratic socialist, leftist, as crazy as you can get. But he believed that people had a right to bear arms and own guns because it shouldn't just be for the elites. And the corporations and this and that. He said the commoner should still be able to have guns. And so even if you're that crazy,
Yeah.
and I'm not speaking for you, Mike, I'm speaking for myself. I think he's crazy. There's still room for people to believe in gun ownership. And everybody to the right of him, which is a lot of people, in the middle of him, still believe in guns. And so I think it's showing maturity on this side of the San Diego County gun owners. It's showing foresight, and it shows that you have a handle and an understanding of the Second Amendment that I think most groups don't understand their single issue. It's because you guys have chose to focus on that one thing, and you're an inch wide and a mile deep. You know everything about it, and that's what's made you so effective as an organization.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, going for the little mic.
Double mic?
It's true. What you're saying is all right. You're a single issue person, and that's it. And nonpartisan, and I think that's wonderful. And I think that there are a lot of people that would be leftists who can't stand the thought of, well, all the politicians have bodyguards, all the movie stars have bodyguards, and they're trying to take my commoner gun away while they have all that protection. So you might appeal to the Democrat, socialist, whatever. So yeah, you don't ever become partisan, even though everything in this world is partisan or in this country is partisan. You've got to maintain nonpartisan, or the minute you come off as we're a Republican organization, you have just lost 60% of San Diego. Yeah.
A ton of credibility too.
Yeah.
A ton of credibility.
Yeah.
So being in La Mesa, that is, decidedly harder to be a Republican representative in La Mesa. Do you get criticized for being a Republican? Because, like I said, you're very Republican. Do people come at you for that, or what does that look like?
I get a lot more positivity than negativity. So I do a lot of social media, and I started 2 years ago, and now I'm addicted to it because it's just a great way to message. But I had one video that got almost 800,000 views. So it's my.
Was it down on the border?
That was the border one. Yeah.
Tijuana,
Drive around Tijuana. There's no homeless in Tijuana, but San Diego's filled with it. And so it's just a question: why is a poor country have no encampments on their streets, and why is a rich country filled with them? It's just a question. But for some reason it hit a nerve. But what I get, which surprises me all the time, is like we had an Oktoberfest in La Mesa, and we're tapping the keg, and the master of ceremonies introduces everyone to the city council, and everyone's like, yay, and then my name came up, and it was like, whoa, and I'm like, and you could see my face on the video. I'm like, what? I was totally startled. It's because people are like, okay, she keeps sticking her neck out there, and it keeps like I had a big thing with the LGBTQ flag, and it was 2 hours and 45 minutes of me getting beat up. And I had to stand there and take it, or sit there and take it, and I got called a Nazi, a bigot, a hater, everything under the sun. And I just, like this, and it was over, and whatever. And the thing is I think people respect people that stand their ground. And so, yes, I get some really snarky stuff online or whatever, but way more support. So.
And you're a proud female. You're very female.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You're very
yeah.
feminine, you know?
Yeah. Without being a bra burner, I just like it's just like yeah.
But you don't really play that card.
Never. No.
And you are also. Was your mom?
I'm half Guatemalan, and so the papers after I won is like La Mesa elects its first Latina, and I'm like, oh my God! All I do is I can speak restaurant Spanish, you know. That's about it. So yeah. So no, I never play the woman card. I never play the half Hispanic card. No.
None of that.
No.
Okay, so my next question I'm going to ask you guys is basically, is there something, is there a message, you know, you guys invited you a couple weeks ago, is there a message you want to get across or something you really want us to know or something, you know? But before you do that, while you're kind of thinking about that, I want to tell you, I've been attacked a lot in the last 8 years, none as viciously as Republicans. Republicans attack me viciously.
On what?
On not being Republican enough.
Oh.
The Democrats, you know, I get pot shots or whatever, but for the most part, I kind of get this attitude from them as either completely ignore me, or it's kind of a, gosh, let's sit down and talk and, you know, hold hands and, you know, form a drum circle and let's see if we, you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. Republicans, when we endorse a Democrat or if we don't endorse the Republican that they like, something like that, viciously personal, hateful attacks. And I don't mean one.
Yeah.
I mean vicious, which I don't really care. I kind of like it. Like, honestly, it kind of makes me laugh. I gotta tell you, and if they get a good singer on me, I'm like, that was hilarious. I'm probably gonna steal that and use it on someone else.
Yeah.
But it is a very, very different attitude. It's pretty amazing. And, you know, my career has been, proclaimed dead at least once a year for 8 years now, and we're still here, and we're even stronger than we were.
Right.
But it's been really, really interesting. So what's something that you guys, is there something you guys want us to know or do or say or a message you guys want to make sure that we hear?
Well, I'm actually going to go back to what's going on in the Middle East because, like I said, I mentioned a little bit earlier, and what's happening over in the Middle East, it should and never will happen in this country, but the people they relied on the government to protect them. Ultimately, is really what a lot of this goes down to, because they make it so tough to get a firearm in Israel for the average citizen. And like I said, there's like 9 million residents in Israel, and I want to say it was like 400,000 or something that had firearms, and that's about it. You know, and mostly in obviously the bigger cities and not so much the rural areas in there. But if any person ever thinks that the police officer or someone else is going to come save them, you know, from a tragedy happening at their front door or in their backyard or at a place that they're at, there's not ever enough time for you to call 911 and wait for a response to protect you. And that's one of the reasons why, again, our forefathers were so intelligent to allow us to keep and bear arms, is what was happening back then with the militant stuff. But we're never ever going to get a government to protect us. We have to protect ourselves.
The opposite.
And if anybody believes that, you might as well go to a socialist country or a communist country, because that's what you think is going to happen. The government's going to tell you what to do, and they're going to protect you. So that's kind of my message tonight, man. I just, like I said, you know, we're about to get into a mess, of my opinion, only, that, you know, could be averted.
Nice. Thank you.
Two real quick things, Michael.
Yep.
One, to give the audience, I'm sure you already know this, but when I speak to people in the middle on the left, the best way I know how to describe why someone should own a firearm is because of natural rights, or I call them God-given rights. And people have value, therefore, if something has value, it needs to be protected and maintained. And the best way to protect a life right now, the great equalizer, is with a firearm. If people didn't have value, then we wouldn't have hospitals, we wouldn't have doctors. So it behooves us in order to protect things that we value. That's what gives it value. And human beings have value. That's the moral argument for owning a gun. And the last thing I'll say is, the State of California Parole Board is looking to release Andy Williams, the school shooter at Santana that I was at early. And so I have an online petition for friends, family, community members, survivors of that to sign it and say he should not be released early. So in that hand, we're working to not have him released early, and on the other hand, they're looking to take away our ability to conceal carry to protect ourselves. So they're releasing the criminal, and they're removing our ability to protect ourselves. So if you felt so inclined to sign that petition, just go onto my Facebook page, Phil Ortiz. It's right there on the top. I have it pinned, and please sign it.
Cool.
Okay, the message I want to impart is everyone always talks about the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. My favorite sentence is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. So it used to be you would be embarrassed to say that you wanted the Second Amendment because of government tyranny. You sounded like a nutcase. And so everybody always talked about, oh, self-defense, protect my family, which is absolutely very valid. And I'm glad, especially with the release, I mean, we've let 7 million people in the country unvetted, and most of them are military-age men. We need to be armed and releasing violent felons and criminals. However, my biggest thing is COVID. I'm born and raised here, and I've seen our freedoms chipped away since I was a kid. It's the slow boiling frog. You're not aware of it until you look back. You start watching things from the 70s, you're like, my God, I can't believe they did that back then, because all of our freedoms have been chipped away. But it wasn't until COVID where I saw our government turn against the people. If COVID had been as deadly as they said, you wouldn't have had to force us to stay home. They forced us to stay home, and then they punished you if you left, if you tried to work, if you didn't wear a mask. But it was nothing in the United States compared to how bad it was in Australia. If you ever want to spend an hour or two watching crazy videos, go on YouTube and watch Australian COVID arrests. Just watch. And we're talking girls getting knocked to the ground by cops because they weren't wearing a mask. And cops with their knees on their back, and the girls not wearing a mask. Grandmothers, young people, and the cops were so jackbooted. And all the people, their crime was walking in a park. Their crime was being at a sporting event. Their crime was not having a mask. It happened here, not like Australia, and I gotta believe it's because of the almost 400 million guns we have. And I know Joe Biden made a comment once, well, so what if you have guns? We have nuclear or whatever, right? Meaning like, if I wanted to take you out, I can take you out, which is true. If our government wanted to take out its people, it could. However, I think our government is still sane enough to not want the bloodshed of starting to kill its citizens, because it would be an ugly civil war. And so, I know it sounds crazy, but I think after COVID it sounds less crazy. But my favorite part of the Second Amendment is the tyranny part. It's the we need to be our own militia. Remember, the Second Amendment was written after the Revolutionary War, after we just broke away of what we thought was a tyrannical England. So I'm afraid of my own government. Our government has the power to investigate. Our power has to investigate, prosecute, find you guilty, sentence you, execute you, bankrupt you. Why do we want to give our government more and more power? We're getting ready to fight cameras everywhere all over La Mesa. And it's like, oh, we're trying to catch criminals. No, you're not. The next time there's a COVID lockdown and I break the curfew, it's gonna be my license plate on that reader. So that's why I love the Second Amendment.
necessary to the security of a free state is
Yeah.
pretty strong language.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty unambiguous
Yeah,
strong language.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah, and I think people are saying it more now than they used to.
Yeah.
Yep.
What race should we watch? What's the local race? Not president or even
Amy
Congress.
Reichert.
But I know going into not right now.
2024.
Going into 2024
Okay.
November. What's
Dustin
the race?
Trotter for Santee City Council.
What's the non-U race we should pay attention to in 2024?
Oh, geez. Think about it. Honestly, it's our supervisor races. They're the biggest ones. So, Laura just mentioned, obviously, Amy Reichert going into the special election currently right now. But next year we have Supervisor Anderson, and then we have Supervisor Raymer up for re-election.
Kevin Faulkner.
Yeah, so she has an opponent, Kevin Faulkner, running against her this next year. But it's a supervisor race. In my opinion, it's the top dog, in the county, and it's going to, sway or break, the direction of the county going forward.
Yeah. Yep. Phil, what's race to watch?
Same thing. I would not add anything else. Dustin hit it on the head.
Yep.
All right. Same thing.
Yep.
Is there anybody else? Anybody else? You guys we should watch? Are you up, Phil?
I'm up in 24, and Bill Wells is running for to unseat
Oh,
Sarah Jacobs.
yes, that's
And
another one.
You're in
Yeah,
Mesa.
Bill Wells.
That would be monumental if you could pull that off.
Oh
You're
God.
2026.
I'm
right?
2026, and also we should find someone to run against Colin Parent. He's to La Mesa what Gavin Newsom was to San Francisco, and he's just gonna fail upward.
Colin's running for assembly though, right? So,
Yeah, he's running for state assembly 2024 next
know
year.
what?
that's your. I thought you were talking about. I thought you meant the
Not
council.
sitting
Yeah. You know what one of the many things I really like about you is you are not afraid to talk about your colleagues and just say, hey, I don't like this person.
No.
They're
No.
wrong.
No. Yeah.
So many,
Yeah.
even the bravest
Yeah.
city council members, whatever.
Yeah.
Even some of the bravest
Yeah.
ones have said, I don't want to. I got to work with that
Yeah.
person. I don't
Yeah.
want to. You're not afraid of that.
So far, it's all been one-sided. They haven't come back at me yet.
Since Laura's so truthful, can I ask you a quick question
Sure.
on the record?
Yeah.
Whose Oktoberfest was better?
October.
She came
Okay,
to ours. She
yeah.
came to El Cajon's.
Okay, I can
Was
do
that
both.
your first time?
Yeah, no, I've been there before.
Oh,
okay,
never mind.
no, El Cajon's is more authentic, and the food, it's so good.
I've got her on record.
Yeah, Yeah.
Elko's is good, but
Yeah.
I thought La Mesa was kind of.
La Mesa's wild.
It's
Yeah,
kinda,
it's wild.
It's
Yeah.
a
Yours
lot
is more
bigger.
German.
Yeah, it's very German. We
Yeah.
fly in a band from
Yeah,
Germany.
yeah.
Yeah, so yours is more authentic. I remember I
Okay,
went to La
yeah.
Mesa's one year, and the highlight was I got to see Mojo Nixon. Mojo Nixon was playing. I'm like, this is awesome. I
Yeah.
don't know how much he has to do with Germany, but it was fun.
Yeah, ours is just one big party.
Yeah, right,
yeah.
All right, well, cool. Well, guys, thank you so much. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys coming out here on a Saturday and doing this. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all the support you guys give. You guys are absolutely wonderful. Love you guys to death. Is there
Right
anything
back at
else
you.
you want to say, or are we wrapped?
No, thank you.
We're wrapped. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.